Haven't watched White Wolf yet, I think. I am watching their game right now.
Okay. Okay, so we got Redeemer and Xenoguardian, but the Redeemer came out before Xenoguardian for White Wolf. Okay, so those units. There's also Blood Rager. I guess it's not being bought this game because no one's going
I
red.
would, I would have liked Blood Rager here versus the Xeno, but I guess it might not be easy to get. Uh, it seems weird that Redeemer got bought before Xeno. That's like
Yeah,
the one thing I'm
that's
super
the first
surprised
thing.
about.
That's the first thing I noticed. It seemed
Yeah,
a
so,
little odd. Um,
uh,
so
but maybe it was also bought before the opponent Xeno got bought, so it was still okay.
yeah, I guess he just pushed it
How
up, and
much?
now they're both.
How much? Let me ask you, how much do you like this storing so much green and getting omegas with 14 gold exactly?
Um, I guess it's fine.
I do like storing green here. There's a cluster Niva bench, right? So it's really strong.
Yeah.
But
Do you?
the question is, do you even go for omegas then?
So the
Like
awkward thing
omegas,
is that if you cluster here, you're gonna lose your Xeno. So I guess you don't cluster here
yeah,
unless you wall. But I don't think. I think you want Omega.
yeah. It seems really bad because you're wasting 2 blue. That seems really bad.
Wait. Okay. So he wants to cluster.
I think clustering here is actually probably a mistake.
Yeah, I
Probably.
would get the Omega splitter.
Mm-hmm. Leave back omega, get omega.
Yep. Definitely.
I guess next turn you can go Plexo Omega.
Yeah.
And I mean like the Gauss, like the cluster bolt Gauss charges are only doing 1 damage to you, so it's not awful.
But you can
But
just buy your Omega this turn and then delay this play one turn.
yeah,
Because buying an Omega on 14 gold and 3 blue, it's just a good turn.
yeah,
So,
probably is. Probably better than wasting 2 blue.
yeah. So this will prevent White Wolf from getting his Omega.
Yeah, I guess that's good.
And
This is a very weird opening from both players, honestly. Like Redeemer into Xeno, rather than the other way around, and Xeno into Omega into double cluster
yeah,
bolt.
yeah, it seems like everything's just out of order this game.
Yeah,
Um, do you think this was the correct strategy to go with from the beginning? I mean, there's Blood Rager and Lucina. There is Windsor, Cluster
I
Bolt,
think
Nevo
like
Charge.
I think like Lucina is probably not gonna happen anytime in this set because there's just too much green burst. Um, and I think like the Xeno Redeemer is such a strong line that it kind of forces you to either go for it as well or kind of get really fast damage versus it. Or yeah, and going Animus in this situation is like in this set isn't good at all. Other than for Blood Rager later on in the game.
Well, if you have 2 damage out and your opponent has a Xeno and then the Redeemer, then you can get 2 Blood Ragers.
Yeah, that's true, but um, again, like if you go Animus fast, you probably won't be able to defend then. If you go double Blood Rager, how are you defending the Redeemer Xeno? Right? And
Yeah,
the double
you'd have
Blood
to have a
Rager does
Rhino.
cost 40.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, Redeemer is, probably the way to go. I'm not sure if they necessarily should have gone into Omega after that. It seemed decent
It
for
seemed
White Wolf to
kind of, yeah.
transition into Blood Raiders, and well, at least
Hmm.
one Blood Raider.
Yeah. I think like the Omega was kind of forced and a bit too fast. Like, I would have liked to see the exact opening because, like, triple conduit is already somewhat weird. And then going into triple blast forge, I guess it's fine in this set because of Venge, Cluster, and Nivo.
Yeah.
But it seems like a higher econ in this set would be much preferred. Like, I can see this game potentially going on until like the 20th turn. In which case, I maybe you'd want it to open with the third Engie.
Oh, it's hard to do that against
Yeah,
Redeemer.
I guess it is. And Nivo, I guess that's another problem. But maybe for a player one, the third Engie on the turn that the second player gets Xeno. This game went a weird way though because Redeemer was bought before Xeno.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happens to the new Redeemer. It kind of throws that off.
Yeah. Um. It seems as it's just like both players are getting like this one or two units that want to stop the opponent from getting his own Omega, right? Like
Hmm.
the clusters from Rocks and the Nevo from White Wolf preventing the Omega here. Seems like that's like the plan for both of these, but it's weird.
Yeah, so Rox decided to hold back Omega because the Xeno could have been frozen. So
Yeah,
he's actually gaining 3 absorb. Um, and he defends for enough that the Xeno will not die. Shouldn't
that's.
he freeze the force field here?
I think freezing force field is correct, yes, because it actually does 1 damage rather than freezing wall, which
Yeah.
does 0 damage.
Yep.
Um, and now you see like the triple wall. Probably to be able to go for like 2 Omegas in a turn, maybe. Like not 2 Omegas in a turn, but 2 Omegas in a row is what I wanted to say. If that's a
Well,
chance,
I don't think
like
that's going to happen given that there's Cluster Bolt.
I guess so. You know what I would like to see? Omega Plexos out here from
He,
Rocks.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I would do here.
That is much better than Steel Splitter Wall. uh,
You can't Cluster Bolt with that though. But you're getting an
I
Omega,
know.
so like it's worth
Yeah,
it.
it's definitely worth it in my opinion.
You could. What if you leave back a Steel Splitter and get an Omega
You
Force
can go
Field
Force Field
Cluster
Cluster
Bolt?
Omega.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you leave Steel Splitter and you're not afraid of it dying, or maybe you think your opponent's gonna keep Omega back, you can go Force Field Cluster, yes, and get an Omega. So yeah, not sure. You are dealing 1 less damage though, but you would be killing 2 engineers rather than a wall. So killing your opponent's granularity is also like a valid strategy
Yeah. Um,
rather than doing the max amount of damage.
so White Wolf can push out this Omega Splitter, but he's gonna lose all of his granularity. It's probably still worth it though. Maybe.
No,
Or,
it's probably still worth it. Omegas are
yeah,
very good value
Omegas are just way more efficient than everything else, or all
in
the other
this.
attack that they're buying at this point.
Yeah. Um, it seems like White Wolf is just so far ahead because of the Redeemer, right? I think if Lester and Rox had gotten an Omega, it would have been much closer because
Yeah,
then, yeah, then probably this turn White Wolf can't get his own Omega
yeah. I think the leaving back Steel Splitter, buying an Omega, force fielding, getting a
cluster.
Cluster Bolt was the way to put him off the Omega.
It might have still happened because of a Plexo cell, but
Yeah,
it would have been
maybe.
much harder at least.
He gets the Omega this turn.
Like there's a big problem here where Zeno is dying on this turn for rocks,
Yeah.
and losing Zeno is going to be hard to come back from. Like it's a
Can you
very
actually hold back Omega Splitter here? No, you're one off, right? You'd need one more
no,
damage.
yeah, We need one more damage, exactly. And now like now Rox even has even less damage because he has to hold that Omega back, right? So
Yeah, until he buys another Xeno.
I'm not sure why you would leave Steel Splitter back and buy two Steel Splitters instead of just buying a wall. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, shouldn't he buy a Xeno and so he can start attacking with all the Omegas?
I think so. Instead of the Steel Splitter, that should probably be a Xeno. Agreed. I don't see Rox coming back from this. He's just down on damage. And
Yeah, he looks strictly behind at this point.
the only advantage he has is like two conduits. Um, which, okay, maybe with Vengeance, but I don't think it's the game is close enough for that to uh, pull off the win. Especially not with the amount of defense you have in this set with Plexo Cells and Xeno and Omega Absorb. So yeah, it just looks like like slowly losing more and more economy every turn and not dealing the same amount back. Would you so White Wolf went wall and force field, right? Would you ever go, I don't know, like Plexo instead of that and maybe leave a drone back rather than get the wall? Saves you like 3 gold or something,
Uh,
and you can maybe
yeah,
rebuy drone.
it's really good to get Plexos instead of force fields. They're just so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Although leaving drones back is pretty inefficient, so it's kind of a trade-off
Now
there.
here I wouldn't be getting Plexo. I don't think there's ever a
Oh
chance.
yeah,
Like,
getting one Plexo against Nevo is pretty bad. We talked about this in an earlier game.
yeah,
I think Rox was in that game.
possibly. Yeah, it was Rox versus Kirby, JR Kirby. The super high econ Apollo
Yeah, that game.
defense grid Odin.
Well, Nevo charge doing 4 damage this turn. That's pretty ridiculous.
That's
I
insane.
suppose it would have done 1 damage even without the Plexus Cell.
Yeah. So you're saving a drone to deal 3 damage to yourself. I don't think that's worth it though.
Yeah, it's not worth.
I think Omegas might have been a mistake in this set, honestly. I think like a good mixture of a lot of green and maybe getting some Blood Ragers early on is the way to play this the best. Because Blood Ragers are so efficient versus something like Xeno Guardian, and being able to get that much attack that fast is probably better than like forcing 14 gold and like double blast for just to get an Omega, right?
Yeah, and the triple blast forge is overtech, quite a bit of overtech, whereas a single animus.
Yeah,
So you could have
it's
one
much
animus
easier to
instead of two
manage.
blast forges, and that would
And
probably
uh,
be better.
and if you're afraid of like your opponent going for mass venge, mass cluster, you have the blood pact, which is extremely good versus that.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel like Blood Rager Xeno with green and mixed in, maybe getting a Redeemer early on if possible, would have been the correct line. It does very well versus Omega as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and Plexus Cell.
Yeah. Like you don't rush out for Blood Ragers, but you basically get them whenever they're value. And when Blood Ragers are value, they're like one of the highest value units in the game.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Nothing really beats 2 damage for 7 and a red. If that 3 attack wouldn't have done anything anyway.
yeah. It's like Arca if the 7 damage does nothing. Uh,
Yeah, Arca is kind of insane.
kind of.
Kind of, a little bit.
Kind.
I think it's like the strongest attack